Hi, my name is Oscar Melendez, and this is about the case study Sharp Corporation Beyond Japan. Um, One of the questions was, what kind of business strategy should Sharp consider given the current circumstance they're in? Um, in my opinion, I feel that they have a few options. Right now, they are in what we would call uh, a global strategy. Like many of the Japanese companies in the mid 1900s, the Japanese they like to keep a kind of a central hub, so that way they would have control over their product. They would keep manufacturing domestically, and the only time they would have anything manufactured outside would actually be for final assembly. But a lot of the main manufacturing, a lot of the knowledge, a lot of the innovation was kept domestically in Japan. And that worked for many years. The Japanese companies such as Sharp were very successful using this business model. However, as we know in recent years, the competition for flat televisions has increased significantly. We have a lot of players such as Sony, Panasonic, Samsung, even local companies like Vizio that are competing in this market because they have access to this technology as well. So having this kind of global international strategy, although worked in the past, no longer is going to work for Sharp given the outside market forces that they're encountering now that they're a much more global company. Now, Sharp could decide to say, you know what, let's move into a multinational strategy where we can have national subsidiaries, and we can manufacture locally, would allow them to be a lot more locally responsive to their customer base. However, that does have other issues with it where they would lose control, because normally in these in a multinational strategy there's a lot less control from the central hub. There's a lot of reinventing of the wheels. Subsidiaries normally won't speak to each other, so there's a lot of efficiency issues that arise from that. So that is why I wouldn't consider that strategy. I would consider a transnational strategy for Sharp. Why? Well, for one, in a transnational strategy, it would mean that they would start to build production facilities in the global markets where they see high demand. And by doing so, they would be able to be much more responsive, but also be able to customize the needs of their local customers. This would also reduce transportation costs, potentially access to cheaper labor costs, and even potentially allow them to have access to local innovations that they might not have because they are so domestically integrated in Japan. Now, the next question was, with regards to China, right? They had this opportunity now where they can move into the Chinese marketplace. They have a facility a manufacturing facility they're building there. They have a few local companies that want to venture in with them into China to continue building this production facility where they can have the LCD panels to be built, so they can then distribute and sell within China. Should they do it now? I think they should. Aside from the first mover advantage they would have, because Panasonic and Sony are looking into doing this but are not doing it yet, so it would allow Sharp to establish themselves first, but also going back to the fact that countries like the U.S., the U.K., and Europe, families have flat panel TVs. Now you're seeing less and less families in these countries upgrading to bigger TV panels, which means that the percentage of untapped markets in these countries are very limited, and with high competition, it's not a great place for companies like Sharp to really invest any further. However, in China is different. In China, you only have kind of the wealthy people with flat panel TVs. Given the growth of the economy in China now, you're seeing much more lower middle income families moving into middle income families who would not be able to afford a TV set, a flat panel TV. You also have the people from the rural areas who now also would have access to flat panel television. So, in saying this, there's a huge percentage of an untapped market in China. So I do feel that Sharp should move in that direction. I feel that when moving into China, that would be a great opportunity for them to begin to establish a transnational strategy, and I think that would lead to higher margins, higher gross revenues, and higher net revenues.